in regards to the aftermath of Frank Martin doing exactly what he is accused of doing, which is pulling out of a fight with Shakur Stevenson. And then now that he's taken a lot of heat, of course, he's trying to respond in an aggressive fashion and trying to be mad at the internet or the media on the internet, or mad at the media saying this internet stuff is something else and saying that he didn't duck this. My thing is, well, it was reported as early as Tuesday a deal had been reached. So now, all of a sudden, due to the fact that he's been getting ripped to shreds, now all of a sudden he's saying, "Well, was I don't think I was sent the contract." Okay, well, all of a sudden now that you being ripped to shreds, now all of a sudden you want to talk about you wasn't sent the contract. Well, why didn't you say on Tuesday, hey, there's no contract? Oh, there's no agreement. So now all of a sudden you want to respond and try to play victim, like people just getting at you and picking on you and all this kind of stuff. Look, I'm gonna say this once again about the whole Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney thing. Those situations are totally different. This is apples and oranges. There was no deal sent to Shakur Stevenson. That's been confirmed. That stuff about Shakur Stevenson walked away from an $8 million payday, that's a complete lie. I debunked that, and it just wasn't true. And then when you talk to the people involved, that's truly involved in the situation, then you can get on here and say, okay, it's not true. Those type of numbers were false. And then you have people, of course, the PBC apologists that want to defend Frank Martin's actions, trying to say that Shakur Stevenson is being greedy and all this kind of stuff. You know, at the end of the day, here's the thing about Shakur Stevenson compared to Frank Martin. Shakur Stevenson is an Olympic gold medalist. He did win silver, so he has more stature than Frank Martin. We really didn't hear about Frank Martin till a little bit last year. What has Frank Martin really done and established as a boxer? He passed up the opportunity of a lifetime. He basically either just pricing himself out because he don't want to fight, or he don't want to fight, so he decided to price himself out. He got talked out of the fight because the people behind him, his handlers, don't believe he can win this fight. Once again, this is just a long history of the PBC pulling this stuff with Top Rank, not really wanting to do business with Top Rank. And this is fact. It is a paper trail. It's a video trail. So now all of a sudden you trying to attack the media. Why didn't you say Tuesday that you didn't reach no deal? Why didn't you say Tuesday that you wasn't sent no contract? So you wait till after the news break out that you pulled out of the fight. Now all of a sudden you saying you wasn't sent the contract. Well, here's the thing. What do Todd DeVoe, the buff with Top Rank, get out of line? That dude never issues a statement, and he issues a statement saying that they offered you $1 million and you walked away from it when you got paid like 85 grand for your last fight, and you trying to come up with an excuse to justify walking away from $1 million payday, and you're not guaranteed to get Tank right away. So for the people that's gonna sit up here and say, well, he might get Tank, he's not guaranteed to get Tank next. Here's the thing. Is a Tank Frank Martin fight gonna generate a whole bunch of money? Is it gonna do a whole bunch of pay-per-views? No. So why would he fight? Why would Tank fight Frank Martin when Frank Martin is relatively unknown around the boxing circuit? When it would be more lucrative to fight Isaac Cruz, because you're going to have the delusional Mexican fans that's going to think Cruz has a chance of beating Tank, even though deep down inside they're self-conscious, know that Tank is gonna splatter Cruz in the rematch, but they'll still buy it because they think that deep down inside they might be that hope, that little speck of hope that something different will happen other than what we all believe is going to happen, in which Tank is going to knock Isaac Cruz out. He's going to knock Cruz out within 7 to 8 rounds. If he has two good hands, Cruz is going to sleep. It ain't going to be no different from any other fight. Or Tank is going to beat the hell out of Cruz for 12 rounds. You have to think numbers. You have to think logical. At the end of the day, they just didn't want Frank Martin to go over there, because possibly they could save him for later, build him up on the PBC side. Basically, to set up a clash is what you call separate, then bring back together. Push out, push back. Basically, bring Frank Martin back in the PBC circle, put him in a position to get some winnable fights. Hopefully he looks good, and then possibly match him up with Tank, and then that's it. More than likely Tank wins. But they have to be able to make that fight sellable. Right now, Tank versus Frank Martin is not going to do good pay-per-view numbers because Frank Martin is relatively unknown. Frank Martin versus Tank Davis at best, and that depends on who you believe your source of, basically getting pay-per-view results. That fight at best may do 250,000. It ain't doing no $1.2 million. And I know people gonna say, well, people gonna say, well, Frank Martin and Tank gonna do good because of Tank's drawing power. And I don't know about that. I think it'll sell tickets because Tank can fill up an arena. But here's the thing: can Tank consistently sell 1 million pay-per-views? To become a success, you need certain dance partners. They doing the same Floyd Mayweather formula with Tank that they did with Floyd. Put Floyd in the ring with these, you know what I'm saying, these undermatched, primarily Hispanic fighters that in all likelihood Floyd could beat, but due to the fact that a lot of people have this disdain towards black fighters and black people as a whole, and they thinking that this could be the guy that finally beats Floyd Mayweather, people get sucked in, they pay their money, and then Floyd, like Floyd used to say, if you bought the pay-per-view, I got your money. I won regardless. Because when you look at the situation, when Floyd went from Pretty Boy Floyd to Floyd Money Mayweather, that's the whole idea, was to generate money. Floyd had took all the risks when he was Pretty Boy Floyd. So Floyd Money Mayweather was about the numbers. Somebody, give him somebody decent, make it look presentable. I'll beat him. But then in the way I beat him, I won't knock him out. I'll just outbox him. And then keep lining them up, bringing me these guys due to the fact I wasn't knocking them out. Because if Floyd was knocking out everybody that he was fighting, then he wouldn't have the drawing power. It was always this notion that people was thinking that Floyd could be either knocked out by a dude that may be considered a hard puncher, or he could possibly be outboxed. If Floyd had been knocking out all them dudes at 147, he wouldn't have generated the revenue that he generated. I'm just telling you the secret. And that's exactly what they doing with Tank. They're going to be very careful about who they match Tank with. You won't see a Tank Shakur Stevenson or a Tank Devin Haney fight anytime soon. At the end of the day, the PBC couldn't afford to have another fighter knocked off by a top ranked fighter. The same way I know the numbers, they know the numbers. And like I said, Frank Martin, he can front all he want. He can sit up there and try to get mad at the people on the internet. And he got people defending him. I mean, that comes with the territory. It's gonna be people that's gonna defend him no matter what, because they PBC apologists and they Al Heyman nut huggers. So they're gonna defend, either those two guys one way or another. They will find a way. And for people that's sitting up here trying to justify, well, look what happened with Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney, so this is justified and all this kind of stuff. Well, here's the thing. That says a lot about you. Like I said, it's apples and oranges. There was never no deal in place. You had a deal that was in place that they agreed to, they signed off on, they decided that they weren't going to honor that contract, and they backed out of the fight. And it's just really that simple. It's just really that simple. So for people that want to sit up there and listen, I mess with Team Haney. They got all of the support in the world from me. I got they back, but at the same time, I know the real. And I'm not finna sit up here. I'm not finna sit up here and just keep playing these games. I'm not finna be a fanboy. And I'm not finna be a lackey neither. I'm not finna be nobody's flunky, and that's just real talk. And it just got to be said. It's a bad look for Frank Martin. It looks like a duck. It's quacking. It's Daffy Duck. It's Donald Duck. It's Walt Disney, or it's Warner Brothers. Take your pick. It don't look good for him. And the worst thing he could have did is get on the internet and start trying to pop off at the mouth. That was the worst thing that Frank Martin could have did. He would have been better off being silent. And then you got some of these clowns on here trying to say Shakur Stevenson gave him a low ball offer. How is $1 million a low ball offer? Say what you want to say about Shakur Stevenson. He is more established. He is an Olympic gold medalist, and he was branded as an Olympic gold medalist. Silver medalist. He's an Olympic silver medalist. He's an Olympic medalist. So he has more stature than Frank Martin. We got to stop playing these games. And like I said, I'm not pocket watching, but at the same time, you have to present these numbers. How do you go from making 85 grand a fight to getting offered a very lucrative payday, and then you trying to play this role like you got lowballed? And it just seemed to me that Frank Martin is trying to price himself out. And like I said, you got these clowns sitting up here making videos, flat out lying, saying that he got a lowball offer. If going from 85,000 a fight to $1 million is a lowball offer, then I'll take that every day of the week. Something is seriously wrong with you dudes. And this is why I don't engage in a lot of conversations with a lot of these dudes on here, because they're clowns. They're clickbaiters, and they're delusional, and they just make a fake ideology just to get views. And they're spin doctors. And even if Frank Martin does get Tank Davis next, what does that do for Tank Davis at this point? It comes across as textbook. Here Tank goes again, fighting another dude within the PBC stable. Because eventually people gonna start demanding that Tank fight somebody outside of the PBC. Eventually people gonna start saying, Tank, you gotta go see Shakur. Tank, you gotta go see Devin Haney. And if you move up, Tank, you got to go see Teofimo Lopez. I mean, there was a famous scene. It was a famous scene in the movie The Mac. Is where basically Pretty Tony told Goldie that he was a safe haven for hoes. And now it's starting to look like the PBC is becoming a safe haven for PBC fighters. I'm not gonna call fighters a hoe, but then again, Al Heyman conducts himself like a pimp to a certain degree because it just appears to me and a lot of other people that he tries to protect these fighters. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm just telling the truth, and a lot of people can't grasp, hold on, and understand the truth. But that's your problem, not mine. Just like I said years ago, when a few people tried to get me to become an Errol Spence apologist, when they wanted me to follow this script, and then these big goofy John Coffey looking niggas got attitudes like a chick and started, trying to, sneak diss me and stuff like a pure hoe because I didn't want to be an Errol Spence fanboy. That was on them. And just showed that these people what men and they didn't act like men. You literally got mad at somebody because they showed support for Terrence Crawford. I wasn't on Terrence Crawford's payroll. I wasn't on Errol Spence. I wasn't obligated to align myself and strictly just promote Errol Spence. And that's how a lot of these dudes act. And then here goes the thing. Some of these dudes clearly didn't have the faith in Errol Spence as they pretended to have, because some people went as far as to not even want to talk about boxing no more and ran their ass off of talking boxing. But at the end of the day, I got to keep it 100. Some of these dudes on here that was pushing that narrative where they wanted you to be strictly Errol Spence apologists, I never liked none of these dudes to begin with. I just tried to be cordial. But then at the end of the day, it got to the point to where I saw what people was doing. Once again, no nigga on the internet can't bully me. And at the end of the day, we all know you can make your little subliminal threats. We all know you ain't gonna do shit. And that's just real talk. I'm really from the streets. I'll really be in the streets. Not making no threats to nobody, but at the end of the day, if you think you're gonna just walk up on me and I see you coming and think I'm not gonna do nothing, you sadly fucking mistaken. And this is the last time I'm gonna address this person and his little secret disses. It's not gonna end well for you. For real. If one thing I can do is defend myself. So, and I'm not speaking on this no more, but I needed to get that out there. That just goes to show you how some of these dudes act. Sad part about it is some of these dudes is in their late 30s, 40s, some even in their 50s. They ain't gonna be on the Latino tour as long as they can keep finding Latinos for him to fight. Listen, I don't know how many times I gotta say this. The PBC do not believe black versus black fighters are profitable and that they can sell. They really are literally acting out a page, or should I say, acting out a scene from that movie, The Great White Hype, or should I say, The Great Non-Black Hype. If he happened to be non-black, that's who they try to rally behind. Because for years, people saw too many dominant black fighters. So they needed to find the Triple G's and the Lomachenkos of the world and carefully match them with people that they thought was suitable to their style. And now that Lomachenko is out of the picture, Lomachenko is so badly visibly shaken by what Devin Haney did to him, he doesn't want to go nowhere near Shakur Stevenson. And I don't care about Shakur Stevenson saying that his dad is Puerto Rican and you know, he doesn't want to abandon his Puerto Rican roots. That's his right. You know, we all know Shakur Stevenson is black, so just stop it. Shakur Stevenson, for the most part, he does primarily all his interviews. This is I gotta say this. People all of a sudden have this disdain and dislike for Shakur Stevenson because a lot of people want to push narratives. Like I said, I don't give a damn how much access you got to another guy. I ain't doing that shit. I told you to count me out and I wasn't gonna do it. Nobody gives more access to black media than Shakur Stevenson. We complained about Terrence Crawford and other people not giving access to black media, but then Shakur Stevenson is always giving access to black media. Always. So Shakur Stevenson can't be too bad, but then you have people that want to go on a hate crusade because Shakur Stevenson may not be a PBC fighter, or people, they may not have talked to Shakur Stevenson, or because they talk to other fighters and they cool with other fighters and trainers and stuff. And then they have the audacity to call themselves black content creators. But then every time I look around, these dudes is trying to instigate beefs between black fighters. They always got something to say about Terrence Crawford or Shakur Stevenson, but they don't say nothing about Canelo, who's been popped for using performance enhancing drugs. They don't say nothing about none of these other dudes, but they always got something to say about a black fighter, tear down a black fighter, but then they had the audacity to say that they pro-black. And that's why I don't be having no problem when Coach Malachi be clowning these dudes and calling them out on their hypocrisy and a few other dudes like that. And I know what Coach Malachi is doing, and I don't have no problem with that, because at the end of the day, these dudes are hypocrites. They are frauds. How you gonna say you for the community, but every time I look around, you sitting up here trying to tear down a black fighter? Now, I've had my issues with the Charlo brothers, and that's because I don't like how they conduct themselves around other black fighters. I didn't like the idea of seeing Jamel threatening another black man, but then all of a sudden he kissing and sucking up to Canelo. He want to be humble and respectful towards Canelo, but then he sitting up here talking all this stuff about what he'd do to Deontay Wilder. He talking all this super rah, high power gangster stuff, and then at the same time, he need to understand nobody ain't scared of his ass. That's the problem that I had with the Charlos. That's the problem that I have. What's up? Shout out to my guy, World Combat Sports. Go subscribe to his channel. But that's the problem that I have with those dudes. And speaking of World Combat Sports, check out his channel because he on the same tip as me. At the end of the day, I'm a respectable black man, and that's the only issue that I have with the Charlos. Because you talk all that rah stuff to other black men, but then all of a sudden you sucking up to Canelo. We just wanted you to have the same energy. That's the problem that we had with Derrick James. You sitting up here making fun of Bomac, talking about his weight and all this kind of stuff, but then all of a sudden you want to be cool with Canelo, and that's the problem. And that's the problem. And then you have these content creators to try to insinuate dudes as coons. They the real coons. They the real handkerchief heads. So like I said before, I don't give a fuck about Shakur Stevenson not being with the PBC. I'm not going to tear down another black man. Like I said, I don't agree with some of the stuff Shakur Stevenson says and stuff. But at the end of the day, Shakur Stevenson, nobody gives more access to black media than Shakur Stevenson. But then you got all these dudes sitting up here trying to tear the dude down because something may or may not happen between him and Cam Haney. Now, getting back to Frank Martin, this is just the real. It's not a good look for him because he pulled out of the fight. All of a sudden, you trying to get mad and you trying to lash out at people for basically calling you a duck. This fight was announced on Tuesday. You should have came out and said if a deal wasn't in place, you didn't have no problem when it was announced that this fight was going to happen. But then soon as Saturday come around and basically everybody announces Mike Coppinger, Chris Mannix, all announced that you pulled out of the fight and you was going to get paid $1 million when you only made 85 grand for your last fight. And you trying to act like you got lowball, man, stop it. And you trying to lash out at the media because they calling you out. And I know that there's going to be people that going to protect these dudes. You know, these people then sworn and took an oath. I'll pledge to the PBC no matter what and continue to make fools of themselves. How many times have these dudes have made fools of themselves, you know, basically pledging allegiance to the PBC? How many times have Al Heyman let these dudes down? This is an ongoing pattern with the PBC, not wanting to send their guys over there, being hesitant to do deals with Top Rank because they don't believe in their fighters, because they're afraid that Top Rank fighters are going to damage them, beat their ass, and then when they go back to the PBC stable, they lose value. My thing was when they was calling people Top Rank Toby, like I said before, some of these dudes, that's why I don't even pay attention to these dudes. So what happened to the Top Rank Toby stuff when Devin Haney signed a 3-fight deal? All that went out the window. So just all that went out the window. As long as some of these dudes have access to these dudes, then they gonna be cool with them. All that went out the window, man. Like I said, some of these dudes on here. If I said what I knew behind the scenes, I could like just make these dudes look worse than what they really are. How many times have dudes like the least attorney got caught in lies and stuff, making up stuff? So I'm just saying. So I know, man, for real. I mean, you got to call it what it is, man. Like I said, it's just not a good look for Frank Martin, man, what he did, man. He can't be mad at other people. All Frank Martin put out is, I didn't duck nothing. Like I said before, if none of this stuff was true, you should have immediately said when it was announced that a deal had been in place. Keep in mind, on Tuesday, they were supposed to go to a purse bid if they didn't work out a deal. They are the ones, the PBC, Al Heyman, Team Martin contacted the WBC and said that there's no need for a purse bid because a deal had been worked out. That came from them. They the ones that alerted the WBC that a deal had been put in place, that they don't need a purse bid after the WBC ordered a purse bid to make this fight happen. And then it was announced that a deal had been worked out. All of a sudden now Frank Martin can find his Twitter fingers. He can find his Instagram fingers. Oh, nobody didn't. Well, why didn't you say a deal wasn't in place on Tuesday? What happened to your Twitter fingers then? You couldn't find your computer then? You couldn't find your phone then? Now all of a sudden you get called out and you getting roasted, you getting cooked. Now all of a sudden you trying to lash out at us. All we were doing was doing our job. We reported that a deal was in place. You had Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to say, hey, wait a minute, you guys, don't jump, nothing set in stone, Hold on. I ain't received no contract. Then on Saturday, when it get announced that you pulled out of the fight, when Top Ranked himself, Todd DeBuff, said, hey, we offered you $1 million. We sent you a contract. And you said that you're no longer interested. Listen, Todd DeBuff never issues no statements. All of a sudden, he issues a state. Todd DeBuff don't hardly ever issues any statements. He doesn't even hardly talk. I done met the dude a couple of times. That's Bob Arum's stepson. Todd DeBuff even got involved and said, hey, man, you were supposed to come fight on an ESPN card. This was going to be on an ESPN card. They was going to let him fight on the ESPN card. Then all of a sudden, Saturday comes. The fight is off. And then Chris Mannix, whether you like him or not, has reported what's going on. Mike Coppinger don't have a horse in the race. Says, hey, you backed out of the fight. You contacted Top Rank and said you are no longer interested in the fight. So what are we supposed to do? We just reported what was put out there. Now all of a sudden, you wait till Sunday and say, oh man, ain't nobody duck nothing. Oh, I wasn't sent the contract. Well, why didn't you, like I said before, why didn't you say that on Tuesday when it was reported that a deal was in place? They had a date, November the 16th. No matter how much people were not very fond of that fight date because it was on a Thursday. And you had a location, which was Las Vegas. Now, they didn't say what the venue was going to be, but in all likelihood, it would have either been the Mandalay Bay or the MGM Grand. So when it's reported that you pulled out of the fight, all of a sudden, here you come. Oh, man, I didn't duck nobody. Like I said, you had days to let us know what was going on. It's just a bad look for you and you trying to save face. It's just looking like that. It's definitely looking like Shakur Stevenson is just having a hard time finding opponents. And like I said, I've seen people making videos trying to cape for Frank Martin, saying Shakur Stevenson offering him a low ball deal. Well, first of all, Shakur Stevenson, in all likelihood, ain't the person that do the offering. The people that do the offering is the promotional company. Unless Shakur Stevenson is the promoter of the fight, the sole promoter of the fight, and he had found some backers that's willing to put up a hedge fund or some investors. Otherwise, Top Rank is the lead promoters. Okay. Like I said before, you've seen an ongoing pattern with this stuff. From us not being able to get Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua, one way or another, somehow, some way, the PBC finds a way to throw up a roadblock. When we could have gotten Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder, we couldn't get it. We couldn't get Danny Garcia versus Terrence Crawford. We couldn't get Ugas versus Terrence Crawford because it was this crap about the other side of the street. And let me tell you something. You don't think for a second the PBC had meetings about, well, we sent Steve Fulton. We let him fight on ESPN Plus. He got knocked out. We had Terrence Crawford. He fought on the PBC programming, and he basically destroyed one of our so-called top guys. Now you have a up-and-coming dude in Frank Martin. Listen, they can't afford for Frank Martin to go over there and get his ass beat by Shakur Stevenson because it hurts the PBC brand. So it's better to keep him in-house, keep him within the PBC stable, and have him fight PBC guys. Because then if he goes and fights on ESPN and Shakur Stevenson beats the hell out of him, well, guess what? It becomes it becomes to become startling. And then people gonna start then it's gonna start gaining steam. You're gonna see bigger media outlets saying, dang, we notice every time a PBC fighter fights outside of the PBC, he loses. And then once again, people start turning their antennas and starting to zero in on the PBC. You have to understand how this works. I'm breaking this down for y'all. While other people sitting up here giving you a whole bunch of BS clickbait videos, I'm giving you the real. This is one of the real reasons why. It was the fear of Frank going to ESPN and getting beat up. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Steve Fulton got paid $3 million for that fight versus Inoue. Inoue got allegedly $10 million. Now, I heard Steve Fulton didn't train like he was supposed to train for that fight, but that's on him. If he didn't train for the fight and he got put in the dirt by Inoue, that's on him. Should have trained harder for the fight. But like I said before, they know that they can't afford for another PBC fighter to cross the mythical street and get beat up. Okay. Well, the only heavy lifting you seeing is the PBC fighters getting lifted off their feet. You know, Errol Spence got knocked off his feet 3 times by Terrence Crawford. Steve Fulton damn near got knocked into space by Inoue. And they probably thought that Shakur Stevenson was gonna beat Frank Martin up. Well, you heard what Floyd Mayweather said a couple of years ago about, not wanting to do cross promotional deals, and you heard Leonard Ellaby talk about that. You heard what Floyd Mayweather said, and that kind of and you go back and I forgot who he did the interview with. I think it might have been Fight Hype. Well, you heard what Floyd Mayweather said. He kind of was dropping a little bit of an Easter egg. Remember, Floyd did an interview when they was asking him about Tank versus Lomachenko, but I think Tank could take Lomachenko now. I think Tank would knock Lomachenko out within 4 rounds. Based off the fact that Lomachenko don't get started till like the 5th, Tank would knock Lomachenko out. I don't see why. But then again, Floyd probably had this thing, well, I don't want Bob Arum to make no money off me. He had no choice but to make the Pacquiao fight because Pacquiao was too deep into that Top Rank contract to where Floyd had to make the fight. Okay? He had no choice but to make the fight. So he had no choice. But Floyd said out of his own mouth, he said, we ain't going to make another promotional company great. So basically what he was saying is we not going to send our fighters over to possibly, Matchroom, Golden Boy, or in particularly Top Rank, and they get beat up and then Top Rank looks great. That came out of Floyd Mayweather's own mouth. And I was like, are you admitting something, Floyd? So Floyd kind of dry snitched on Al Haymon and kind of gave up the goods on the PBC. This came out of Floyd's mouth. I could go find that video. He said he ain't trying to make other promotional companies great. So basically he's saying he wasn't trying to send none of his guys over there. This is basically an admission that they don't believe in their guys like they pretend to. That came out of Floyd's mouth. I didn't say that. Tam Bennett didn't say it. Floyd said it. So don't get mad at me. He said that. He said, I ain't going to make another promotional company great. So he basically was kind of hinting that we don't want to send our overhyped fighters over there for them to get exposed and make the fighters on the other side of the street, or whatever you want to call it, 227, the last house on the left, whatever, look great. I could admit a lot of people didn't pick that up. I picked it up. I caught on to that. I was like, because like I said, I started to see what was going on with the PBC before a lot of other people did. I started to see this stuff with them. I started to see that they don't have that much regards towards black fighters. Because at the end of the day, Al Heyman paid Conor McGregor, a dude that never had a professional fight in his life, over $100 million with no hesitation. And it did not bring MMA fans to boxing on a regular basis. So for people that was making excuses trying to say, oh, that's what they were doing and all, and trying to justify Conor McGregor getting paid that kind of money, please stop it. Like I said before. But then this is the same PBC that don't want to pay Terrence Crawford, that was hesitant to pay Terrence Crawford what he should have got. To be honest with you, the PBC treat a lot of their black fighters like tune-up fighters. So I'm just saying, man, this is their history. I got all the receipts. I don't have to sit up here making these videos going in on the PBC because I'm telling the damn truth. So, like I said before, the only way we gonna make these type of fights happen if we start going in on these dudes, going in on the promoters, going in on the promotional companies. Look, at the end of the day, Top Rank believed in Shakur Stevenson enough to try to make this fight. They sent Frank Martin an offer. They sent him a very lucrative offer, and he walked away from it. Like I said before, is he guaranteed to get Tank Davis next? And even if he gets Tank Davis next and Tank Davis wins the fight, okay, so what? So what? I'm just saying. Shouldn't Tank be expected to win? At least a fight with Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney would be intriguing. Like some fights don't sell or do very well when it's one particular guy versus a guy that's they may not be very interested in. I think Devin Haney and Regis Prograis, if this fight is promoted right, is going to do some decent numbers. It's going to do some decent pay-per-view numbers. I'm going to do my part to try to make sure this fight is successful. Like I said, sometimes you need a certain dance partner. Now, unfortunately, when Regis fought at home, and I know this being fact, I'm not disrespecting Regis. I'm not dissing Regis because I got a lot of love for Regis because Regis is always giving me an interview. He's never denied me an interview. But I know for a fact that Regis fight at home in New Orleans did not do good. When I saw the actual fight and I was watching it, I saw sections of the floor section covered up. I seen spots of the floor that was empty. And then I asked somebody that was actually there, I said, how many people came to that fight? I heard this is just real talk. I heard less than did 7,000 people came to that fight. And he fought in his hometown. At least when Andre Ward was fighting in Oakland, he was doing, he was doing 12, 11. He was doing over 10 every time he fought in Oakland. Unfortunately, Regis couldn't even get 10,000 people to come see him fight in his own hometown. He's from New Orleans. That's his hometown. Now, before you say, well, Devin Haney didn't do too good when he fought George Linares and when he fought Jojo, what's his name? Jojo Diaz. Remember, those fights were in 2021. So people still, like, keep in mind, we were still deep into what. So people still wasn't comfortable still coming out to live sporting event. Vegas was one of the few venues and cities that started opening up events to full capacity. Keep in mind, we still was real deep into what. I don't want to say that word. Devin Haney had 14,000 people that packed the MGM Grand to see him fight Lomachenko. I think people are going to come to the Chase Center. People are going to be curious because this is going to be the first event that the Chase Center is ever going to have as far as combat sports go, as far as I know. So I'm just saying, people have to remember that. When he fought Linares, that was in 2021. And that was like in when was that? That was like in the summer of 2021 when he fought Linares. And then he fought Jojo Diaz, I think, at the end of he fought Jojo Diaz at the end of 2021. So, like I said before, remember, people still wasn't comfortable like going out in the public and going to sporting events. Just remember that. So I'm just saying, but that's the point that I'm trying to make about, Frank Martin and a Tank Davis fight. Okay, if it happens, well, okay, here you go. More PBC fighters fighting PBC fighters. We want to see some different looks. How good is we gonna know Frank Martin is if he don't fight guys like Devin Haney or Shakur Stevenson? Why do these dudes have to be PBC fighters for these fights to happen? This is how Al Heyman got in trouble the first time. This is how he got accused of running a monopoly. And do anybody believe that? Do anybody believe that Frank Martin can beat Tank? I don't think so. I think it's very few people that have a chance of beating Tank. The only people I think that have a chance of beating Tank Davis is two people out there, maybe three. Maybe three. The only three people I think have a chance of beating Tank is Devin Haney, and even that's caution to the wind because Devin Haney gonna have to be careful. Devin Haney still has some things that he need to fix. Sometimes he leave his face out when he exchanging, and sometimes he doesn't cover up, and that could be disastrous if he fights somebody like Tank. So there's some things Devin Haney got to work on going into a fight with Tank, which I think he could do. But I still think Devin Haney could beat Tank, but he's gonna have to fight not the perfect fight, but he's gonna have to be really careful. He can't afford to make too many mistakes versus Tank Davis. I think Shakur Stevenson, based off his skill set, I think he can outbox Tank. But once again, Tank's power is the equalizer. Okay. Now I'm gonna tell you somebody else. Styles make fights. You can't sometimes base something off what you've seen with somebody else is necessarily the X factor in another fight. It's buyer beware. It's fight by fight basis. Sometimes you can use the triangle theory or the square root theory when it comes to fights. I think if Tank moves up, I think if Teofimo Lopez is focused and doesn't have distraction, I think he could give Tank fits. So those the only 4 people that I think could beat Tank Davis. That I think have a more than exceptional chance of beating Tank Davis, but still at the same time, they're gonna have to, you know what I'm saying? They're gonna have to fight damn near a perfect fight. Oh, Leo naming I ain't even gonna touch that. I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna leave that alone. So I'm not even gonna touch that. But you know, Al is taking care of Leo because keep in mind, he kept Leo Santa Cruz away from Gary Russell Jr. for years, only to feed him the Tank. Gary Russell Jr. had been calling for Leo Santa Cruz for years, and they refused to give him to Gary Russell Jr. And that's another thing. Everybody, since you niggas is so pro-black, like I said, why don't y'all talk about how Gary Russell Jr. they got treated? Keep in mind, once again, Gary Russell Jr. was a potential opponent for Devin Haney, and somehow, some way, that fight couldn't come to fruition. So, like I said, it's an ongoing pattern. And then let me tell you something. Like I said, you have no idea what was told to me behind the scenes by somebody close to them dudes. I ain't gonna say who it was, but they gave me some information. So, like I said, all this stuff that I know and that I'm saying, this stuff got told to me way back in 2018 about what be going on and stuff. Just like Drake had God's plan, well, Al Heyman have Al's plan. Al's plan. Al's plan. Oh, it would. It would. It would. It would be, man, Tank versus Teofimo Lopez would be a hell of a that fight. I'm gonna be honest with you, but we all know that fight is not gonna happen, and we all know why. We all know why. That fight ain't gonna happen. The thing is, as long as a lot of these fighters are aligned with the PBC, you get what if fights, you get potential fantasy fights. Like I said, if Terrence Crawford was still with Top Rank, they wouldn't have made that fight. They barely wanted to make the fight with Terrence Crawford not being on not being aligned with Top Rank. But this is what they do. And to anybody that's gonna listen to this video and try to play that pro-black card with me when it comes to Al Heyman, please stop it. Like I said, Al Heyman about as pro-black as Archie Bunker. And I know it's people that's close with Al Heyman. I mean, if you choose not to talk to me anymore because me basically keeping it real about Al Heyman, then I get it. I understand. No hard feelings. Fine. Okay. Fine. But anyway, you guys, I just wanted to, before I close out on this video, I just wanted to continue to break stuff down to you guys. Like I said, one thing about me with my audience, I want to be transparent. Like I said, I have no horse in the race. I'm not on Matchroom's payroll. I'm not on Top Rank's payroll. I'm not on Golden Boy's payroll. I'm not on none of those promotional companies' payroll. But I have to tell the truth. And I know some people gonna say, well, Town, it's documented that, and you said it yourself, that it's highlighted that you don't care for the PBC based off the fact that they're not credentialing you for fights in Top Rank and Matchroom are. Well, do you want me to be completely honest? Is that playing a little bit of a role in my resentment towards the PBC? Maybe 10%. But then again, I still would be saying this stuff. It's sort of like a little bit of a issue, but at the same time, you still call it out the BS. So once again, I'm keeping it 100. I'm keeping it real, not trill. So once again, so if somebody say, "Oh, well, TLB is the only reason why," he'll never admit that, or I just did. I just did. But that's not all the way. I'm authentic. I do have an issue with the PBC not giving me credentials for fights. But let me add on to this. My thing is with them, you will turn me away saying, I don't have this, I don't have that. It's a numbers game. But then my thing is, how are you giving a dude that got 500 subscribers a media credential over me? See, you have to tell the whole truth. I'm telling you guys the whole truth. That's another issue I have. You want to holler about why I can't get in and all this stuff. And yeah, I do have an issue with the PBC because I was told that I was going to get a credential for Spence versus Crawford. And then they turn around and tell me, oh, well, we can't accommodate you for a credential. And then I happen to see a dude who got credentialed for the fight. I'm not going to say what the name of his channel is because, like I said, nothing against him. I don't believe in giving nobody no free advertisement. But I look at this dude's channel. This dude got 500 subscribers, but yet he got credentialed for the fight. Everybody knows I done interviewed anybody that could be interviewed that was in, you know what I'm saying, that was in my grasp that I seen. I done had A-list celebrities on my channel. I done had almost every boxer you could think of on my channel. You know, there's some I haven't had, but for the most part, I done had Andre Ward on my channel. As far as celebrities go, Daryl Chill Mitchell. I've had Ice Cube on my channel. I've had Steven Jackson on my channel. Hopefully, December 9th, hopefully I hit the mothership. I hit the jackpot. Hopefully I get an interview or get some footage of Stephen Curry. Oh, appreciate the super chat. Appreciate that. Hopefully I hit the mothership December the 9th and I get Draymond Green or Damian Lillard or Stephen Curry or even the owners of the Golden State Warriors, Peter Gruber and Joseph Lacob. Because in all likelihood, they're gonna be there. Because here's the thing. This is why I give Bill Haney credit on basically scoping this out. The fight is going to take place December the 9th. That's a Saturday, I assume. The Golden State Warriors have a home game December the 6th, and they don't play again till December the 12th. And it'll be in Phoenix. So, in all likelihood, the Warriors will be able to come to that game. So, in all likelihood, they're going to ask Stephen Curry to come. And I can promise you right now, I'm going to have my black ass somewhere posted to where I can get some kind of footage of Stephen Curry. If Dame Lillard come there, cool. And I think it's going to be, and here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's going to be opportunity. It's a lot of celebrities that's from San Francisco. Hell, I might see Rob Snyder there. Rob Snyder from San Francisco. So this could be a real good look. So there you have it. So I admitted that I have an issue with the PBC. All I'm saying is with the PBC, you need to stay consistent. Okay? Stay consistent. Don't sit up there and turn me away, but then you turn around and give a dude that got 500 subscribers media credential. But then you don't want me to get up in there. But anyway, you guys, appreciate y'all being here. Appreciate the love y'all give me. It's your boy Town. I'm out.